We think of language as just words, right? Something we use to talk about the world. But what if it's so much more than that? What if language is actually the blueprint we use to build our reality? Literally brick by brick. That's the idea we're diving into today. This wild concept that you are an architect, and your words, those are your tools.
So let's just pause on that for a second. How is your reality built? Seriously, what's it made of? You might jump to science and say, atoms and molecules. Or maybe something more personal, like your memories and experiences. But what if the most fundamental building block of your entire world is something we use every single day, almost completely on autopilot? Yeah, I'm talking about language.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at how we even perceive the universe. Then we'll see how that perception becomes a person. You. We'll explore the two very different paths language can take, how words can build entire worlds, and we'll wrap it all up with the most important piece, how you have the power to change your own reality.
Okay, let's jump right in. Section 1, perceiving the universe. It all has to start somewhere, right? And for us, it starts with our senses. That's where we get the raw materials to build anything at all.
So let's start with this incredible word from Sanskrit, bhasha. Now, it translates to language, but the real magic is in its root word, ba, which literally means knowledge. Think about that. This tells us that language isn't just for chit-chat. It's the very container for knowledge itself. It's the system we use to create, share, and sustain the ideas that end up becoming the very foundation of our world. So where does all this knowledge even begin? Well, it starts with something called prapancham. And I want you to picture this like a fire hose of raw data just blasting at you from the universe. Every single sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, all of it, all at once. That chaotic, totally unfiltered stream, that is prapancham. It's the world hitting your senses before your brain has even had a chance to figure out what any of it means. All right, so you've got this flood of raw data coming at you, this prapancham. But how in the world does that chaos become, well, you? That's what we're getting into in Section 2, from perception to person. So that raw sensory data gets processed into what's called locum. And your locum, that's the world you build inside your head. It's your personal reality. Here's a perfect example. Picture two people standing in the rain. The raw data, the propensium, is exactly the same for both of them, right? It's cold, it's wet, it's gray. But one person's inner world, their locum, is all about misery and gloom. The other person, they build a locum of coziness, of refreshment. You see, same raw data, but two completely different realities. That's because your locum is 100% unique to you. Okay, so you've got this unique inner world, your locum. But how does anyone else know it's there? How does it get out? Well, that's where Vyakti comes in. Vyakti is the total expression of your inner world. And I mean total. It's not just the words you speak. It's every single action, every choice you make, even just your body language. Your Vyakti is how your private, internal reality gets projected out into the world for everyone to see. And this is the absolute key to understanding everything. Your outward expression, your Vyakti, it is never ever random. It is always a direct reflection of the world you've built inside yourself, your locum. To put it really simply, what you do on the outside is a mirror of who you are on the inside. But here's where things get really interesting. Not all language is created equal, not by a long shot. As we get into our third section, we're going to see that our words can go down two totally different paths with completely different outcomes. So, check this out. On one hand, you have the ephemeral path. This is language that's, well, it's like steam from a cup of coffee. It does its job and then it's just gone. Like asking someone, what time is it? The words serve their purpose and vanish. But then there's the enduring path. This is language that sticks. It travels with you. It takes root in your mind as knowledge, and it literally shapes how you see everything. And this enduring language, it's something special. When words come from a place of real deep understanding and resolve, they become more than just speech. They become a kind of mantra, a truly influential idea that can guide you and others across time. And let's be clear, creating language like this is not easy. It takes depth. It's a real reflection of a person's character. All right, let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about the individual, but what happens when you scale this up to entire societies? This is where we get to see how words don't just build a person, they build entire worlds. I mean, just think about it for a second. Animals communicate, right? A dog barks to warn you of danger, a bird chirps when it's hungry. That's communication. But can animal sounds build a university? Can they write a constitution? Can they launch a rocket to Mars? No way. That takes evolved human language, the ability to create complex structures and organize millions of people around a shared idea. Honestly, it's our species' unique superpower. But like any superpower, this one has a dark side. There's this ancient text, the Devi Bhagavatam, that talks about these figures, Madhu and Kaitaba, and it describes their vocabulary as chaotic, meaningless, like the sound of a bee in the ear. Wow, what a powerful image, right? It's language that doesn't build anything, it just creates noise and confusion. And that kind of chaotic language is seriously dangerous. Why? Because it's not rooted in any kind of real structure or order, so it can't create anything meaningful or sustainable. But here's the really tricky part. It can sound super intellectual. It can fool people. It can trick them into building a completely false inner world, a fragile locam built on a foundation of, well, basically sand. And that brings us to our final and honestly the most important section of all, the power to change reality. Because after everything we've talked about, the big takeaway is this: you are the one holding the tools. You are the architect. So here it is, the core idea of this whole explainer. If our outward expression is a mirror of our inner world, and our language is what shapes that expression, then it follows that by consciously changing our language, we can change who we are. We can change our entire society. And this isn't just some neat philosophical trick. This is the ultimate creative power that we all have. So how do you actually do it? Well, it's basically a chain reaction. It all starts with changing your vocabulary, consciously. That small change starts to change how you express yourself, your Vyaktikarana. And that new expression starts to rewire your thoughts and your behavior. And before you know it, that entire process starts to rebuild your inner world from the ground up. It changes your locum. And so we end up right back where we started, with you, the architect. Every single word you use is a brick. And with those bricks, whether you realize it or not, you are constantly building. So the only question left is, what are you building? Is it a chaotic, flimsy shock? Or is it a magnificent cathedral? Not just for you, but for everyone around you. So what world are you building with your words?